traveling with Dr. Freeland to Cuba this past July as he prepared for his travel seminar to Cuba. And I saw him as more than a scholar and a professor. He was a man who enjoyed a good mojito, a cigar on occasion, and good music, all of which Cuba is famous for. Dr. Freeland holds a PhD in political science from the University of California, Santa Barbara. He's chair of the Department of Political Science and is faculty advisor to the annual Model United Nations. He teaches courses on social movements, Caribbean politics, and the civil rights movement, in addition to leading travel seminars to Jamaica as well as Cuba. Dr. Freeland is an active member of the Western Political Science Association and the Caribbean Studies Association. His most recent articles are Lutherans and the Southern Civil Rights Movement in Journal of Lutheran Ethics, Preparedness for Rain During Sunny Weather, Caribbean Environmental Sustainability in a Nuclear Age in the Caribbean Development Review, We're a Winner, Music and the Black Power Movement in Social Movement Studies, and Negotiating Place, Space, and Borders, the New Sanctuary Movement in Latino Studies. Dr. Freeland has also received grants from the National Endowment for Humanities for summer fellowships at Harvard University and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Fostering a strong relationship between academia and the local and regional communities, Dr. Freeland's research on Ventura County includes a John Randolph Hayes and Dora Hayes Foundation 2009 Faculty Fellowship for Redistricting by Citizen Task Force in Analysis of the Impact on Ventura County study, and an article, Pipeline to Environmental Justice, the Anti-Liquid Natural Gas Movement in Malibu and Oxnard, California, which is in Dr. Freeland's recent book, International Environmental Justice, Competing Claims and Perspectives. Dr. Freeland is also president of the board of directors of Central Coast Alliance United for a Sustainable Economy, better known as CAUSE. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker for the day, Dr. Gregory K Freeland.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Hall, for that kind introduction. And I'm pleased to be here this morning to celebrate Martin Luther King Day. I want to thank the Martin Luther King Committee of Ventura for inviting me to be the keynote speaker this morning. I'm particularly grateful because this is the 5th year anniversary of Reverend King's I Have a Dream speech on the steps of a Lincoln Memorial. I'm also pleased to be giving this speech on the day of the inauguration speech of an African-American President, Barack Obama. On August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King was unlikely dreaming of an African-American man giving an inauguration speech on January 21st, 2013. Nevertheless, this day is a testament to the spirit and achievements of Reverend Dr. King and all those who devoted their lives to fighting for civil rights and liberties for African Americans in the United States, and by extension, to disenfranchise and oppressed people all over the world. His message was that all men and women are created equal, and that no one should be treated as second-class citizens under the law, whether they live in the United States, China, Mali, or any other country. I recently returned from Havana, Cuba, where I led California Lutheran University students on a travel seminar. We were hosted by the Martin Luther King Jr. Center, which is located in one of the first Black and working class neighborhoods of Havana. The Atlanta Martin Luther King Center in Havana is dedicated to Martin Luther King's legacy of championing equal rights, as well as providing jobs, food, and spiritual sustenance for those in need. Also, the song was associated with Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement. We Shall Overcome was sung or played at movements around the world with the same intention that the song had when sung in the United States. It was sung during the Civil Rights and pro-democracy movement in Tiananmen Square protests in China, in South Africa in the anti-apartheid movement, and the struggle for civil rights in Northern Ireland. All this fits well with the Martin Luther King Jr. Committee of Ventura County's theme for today. Our world, his dream, freedom is happening in Ventura County. Let's turn our discussion to Ventura County to the question. Would Martin Luther King Jr. have to change the dream in his I Have a Dream speech to fit the racial, economic, and political realities of Ventura County 50 years after his original speech delivery? The simple answer is no. And I want to talk about why I believe the best answer is no. And I want to follow this explanation with what we can do to continue to work for the realization of his dream here in Ventura County. Just as the struggle against racism and social injustice did not begin and did not end with King's March of Voting Rights in Selma, Alabama, or with the passage of the Civil Rights and Voting Rights Act of 1964 and 1965, freedom happening in Ventura County does not end the need for a continuous effort against racism and social injustice. Now I want to talk about two phrases and words I want to emphasize this morning: civic engagement and awareness, as the best way to exemplify why Martin Luther King would not have to change the dream in his speech. Civic engagement refers to ways in which you participate in the life of your community in order to improve conditions for yourselves and others, and to help influence the community present and future. It means promoting the quality of life in your community through both political and non-political processes. Awareness is a sense of being watchful, attentive, and alert to events, such as proposals to maintain environmental and unhealthy sites in Ventura County, over-representation of minority youth in the criminal justice system, or cutbacks in the community college system that directly impact minority and low-income students. Take these statistics, for example. In Ventura County, nearly half, 47%, of African Americans over 25 years old have some college or associate degrees or higher, and 27% of Latinos do. These statistics are indications of the need to be aware and understand that these numbers, while good, can be improved, while at the same time watching for and becoming engaged in efforts to reverse the school-to-prison pipeline numbers toward movement in a positive direction. How about nearly half of African Americans 18 and over with some college or associate degrees? Active civic engagement and awareness are important to turning towards a positive direction. Our theme this morning, freedom is happening in Ventura County. The fact that it is happening implies that it is still going on. It is in process, so we have to keep moving with it, keep shaping it, and keep redefining it to fit what is happening now and what we want to be tomorrow. We have to be aware of Ventura County, because the freedom happening here can be compromised by effective freedoms being threatened in other parts of the United States. Let's ask another question. Why should we be dreaming about today, and why should these dreams be influenced by Martin Luther King's dream? The dream that Martin Luther King wanted to bring into practice was aimed at obtaining meaningful civil rights legislation, a fellow works program, the right to vote, better housing, better employment opportunities. There are numerous indications that dreams dreamt 50 years ago continue to be dreamt. The NAACP did a battleground poll among African American voters who had already voted or were certain to vote in the November 6, 2012 presidential election. Jobs and the economy top off the list are the most important issues by a wide margin. with 60% of African American voters identifying this as the most important issue. In addition, 95% of our respondents believe the federal government should be engaged in job creation opportunities for all Americans. While respondents overwhelmingly believe that success is determined by self-reliance, they see a very strong and important role for the federal government and believe that the federal government has a role to play in key areas including education, healthcare, and job creation. In terms of meaningful civil rights legislation, African Americans support marriage equality, and 93% favor the DREAM Act, which would provide an opportunity for undocumented youth to seek U.S. citizenship. In national polling, only Latinos came close to this level of support. Meaningful civil rights legislation can emerge in the form of comprehensive immigration reform. Let me quote from the I Have a Dream speech. Quote, "But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we have come to cash this, a check that would give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice." Unquote. We have demanded civil rights, but part of the check is still due. Voter suppression, denial of immigrant rights, and unequal distribution of criminal justice are indications that payment is still due. And because of this, our civic engagement and awareness is vital. I will talk about one area in particular that calls for civic engagement and heightened awareness, the right to vote, which affects all of the aforementioned areas. I'll begin with another quote from the I Have a Dream speech. Quote, "We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote, and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing to vote. No, no. We are not satisfied and will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters of righteousness, like a mighty stream." Unquote. Thanks to the Voting Rights Act, this would appear to be the most successful of Martin Luther King's dream. There are now thousands of minorities in public office, from local to national. With this comes the power to shape legislation favorable to minorities and an excellent opportunity to halt or slow down policies that are not in the best interest of minorities, low-income folks, and the working class. Ventura County has and continues to have African Americans and Latino mayors, city council members, and supervisors. Nationwide, there are more than 600 African American mayors, including Jackson and Philadelphia, Mississippi, Birmingham and Selma, Alabama. We must be vigilant in our tracking of a judicial threat to one of the most effective and powerful positions of the Voting Rights Act. The United States Supreme Court will decide on the usefulness and constitutionality of Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which prohibits states from abridging the right to vote, with a special emphasis on those states with long histories of voting discrimination. Section 5 requires these jurisdictions and localities, mostly in the South, to obtain approval from the Department of Justice for any proposed changes to their voting procedures to ensure that they could not have discriminatory effect on minority voters. Most of these states in the South and now have to deal with Hispanic and Latino voting blocks as well as African American. In 2006, Congress voted overwhelmingly to reauthorize Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act for another 25 years. The vote was 390 to 33 in the House and 98 to 0 in the Senate. Every top Republican supported this bill. Civil rights leaders, including Judy Bond and Jesse Jackson, stood by George W. Bush at the signing ceremony. The election of Barack Obama in 2008 tossed this party coalition overboard. Since 2010, election laws requiring government-issued photo ID to cast a ballot, proof of citizenship to register to vote, cutbacks in early voting, disenfranchised with ex-felons. This is the name of the game. All of these changes make it harder for minority voters to participate in the political process. The burdens on voters in 2012 elections included more than just long lines. They included new obstacles such as photo ID requirements, shortened voting hours, limiting voter registration drives, and lawmakers unwilling to budge much on these restrictions. Most of these initiatives occurred in jurisdictions covered by Section 5. We were able to overcome these obstacles and re-elect Barack Obama, as well as forward-thinking legislators and legislation nationwide. Yet 3 days after the 2012 election, in which voter suppression played a starring role, the Supreme Court agreed to hear in February a conservative challenge to the constitutionality of Section 5. The challenge originates in Shelby County, Alabama, has been supported by Republican Attorney Generals in Alabama, Arizona, Georgia, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Texas. Latinos are the focus here. Shelby County officials claim in part that discrimination is a thing of the past, and therefore, pre-clearance should be dropped. Shelby County, Alabama is where some of the most fierce resistance to Martin Luther King and voter registration took place in the 1960s. Breaking down the most important provision of the Voter Rights Act is not just unwarranted but harmful to the government's ability to eradicate voter suppression. Section 5 is both constitutional and absolutely necessary. Let's keep an eye and ear on this threat to voting rights. We have the dream happening here in Ventura County. And our awareness tells us that we are connected to this assault on voting rights. It connects to our everyday lives, but not as intense. Our geographic location is helpful, but so is the existence of nonprofit organizations, community organizers active in voter engagement, practice, and projects in Ventura County. Still, such action by the Supreme Court affects Ventura County because if Section 5 is struck down, reverberations are countrywide. It has been suggested that the court wants to act on issues like affirmative action, gay marriage rights, and voting rights, while a 5-4 conservative vote is likely, and before any conservative justice step down giving President Obama a chance to shift the court. There is no guarantee that decisions on these cases will be 5-4 conservative, but Ventura County needs to keep a watchful eye because, as I stated, the fallout can make its way into the freedom that is happening here now. Yes, freedom is happening in Ventura County. Opportunities exist economically, educationally, and politically. There is a strong religious and cultural presence in the county. Youth are active and concerned about their lives here. There is civic engagement here, and the capacity for awareness is embedded in our attitudes, action, and desire for fairness. Martin Luther King would appreciate this county because it has these characteristics. His dream would not have to be changed to fit Ventura County, and our dream should continue to be influenced by King's dream. It is our world, his dream. In conclusion, we here in Ventura County bring the dream to the freedom that's happening in Ventura County theme. But there is work ahead. New, old, and inspiring leadership in many key institutions, along with the educational and community programs to train young leaders for the future, constitute important parts of the work ahead. We will need aware and inspired attempts to do fresh thinking to the points laid out in the speech this morning. Freedom is such that we can go from focusing on opposing to engagement with proposing. Ventura County has in place resources that can carry this forward. Ventura County has, for example, community organizations engaging in informing mobilizing community members, Red Cause and the Community Advocacy Committee. There are sources for funding for social justice work, like the Ventura County Social Justice Fund. Churches that involve their congregations in community uplift, Baptist, AME, Methodist, Unitarian universities. And institutions of higher education that are closely connected to the county, Cal State University, Channel Islands, California Lutheran University. This is why the dream is happening in Ventura County. Thank you. I hope my speech to encourage you to take charge of your lives, voice your concerns, and enact change where it is called for. Yes, the dream is happening in Ventura County. Don't let the dream weaken. Don't let it fade away. I'll offer a quote from a song by Curtis Mayfield. I actually thought about singing this little quote, but I didn't want to risk anybody putting their hands over their ears and missing words. Curtis Mayfield, a musician, poet, and singer, social, cultural, political conscious lyrics, in which he says, quote, remember, your dream is your only scheme, so keep on pushing. And it may seem to be a tough task for you and the community to be civically engaged at a high level of awareness. Well, my advice and feeling about this is, si se puede, yes we can. Thank you.